blowtorch is back on the ICAC tonight. A Sydney businessman who says he has been ruined by the corruption watchdog is demanding a royal commission into the commission.
Hello, I'm Paul Barry. Welcome to Media Watch. And the row in New South Wales over the state's corruption watchdog has seen the media scrambling to take sides. But when it comes to partisan coverage, no one can match 10's Eyewitness News, which allowed one famous ICAC target to brand the watchdog as a wild and arrogant tyrant.
When baseless allegations in the Independent Commission Against Corruption shredded his family's good name, Sharif Khazal was devastated.
It has been extremely horrific.
In 10's first exclusive story, reporter Adam Walters allowed Sharif Khazal to begin his savaging of the watchdog by assuring viewers he was entirely innocent of all corruption charges levelled against him.
There were no favours, there were no benefits, and there were no corruption.
Walters himself then told viewers the accusations against Khazal had been false all along. Next night came part 2 of the story, by which time 10's anchor, Sandra Sully, had been roped in to sing the same song.
Sharif Khazal was eventually cleared by the corruption watchdog, but not before he was dragged through the mud.
Walters then repeated his claim that the Sydney businessman had fallen victim to an appalling miscarriage of justice.
A series of false allegations would destroy Mr Khazal's reputation in the Independent Commission Against Corruption. He was wrongly accused of securing leases for Khazal family cafes and restaurants in the Rocks by offering incentives to a public official who was also cleared.
It would have been a great story had it been entirely true, but it was not. A call to the ICAC or a search of its website would have revealed that in 2011 the Commission in fact made this unequivocal finding.
Sharif Khazal's conduct is corrupt.
The ICAC reached a similar verdict against public servant Andrew Kelly, who'd received $11,000 in travel expenses from Khazal, whom 10 also claimed was cleared.
Mr Kelly engaged in corrupt conduct.
And if the ICAC website was too hard to find, a Google search would have turned up the same result from the Sydney Morning Herald.
ICAC finds Kelly Khazal property deals corrupt.
So how on earth could Channel 10 get its facts so wrong? And how could it fail to tell viewers that Khazal's attempt to clear his name had been rejected by the New South Wales Supreme Court? In 2013, after he appealed the corruption finding on the basis that the ICAC had acted above the law, the court ruled
Mr Khazal's summons should be dismissed with costs.
So, was 10's portrayal of Khazal as a wronged and innocent man just a bizarre and appalling mistake, or was something else at play? Well, we don't know. But back in 2010, the Khazal family's spin doctor was a veteran ex-Channel 10 reporter.
They have not received favourable treatment from the authority. Far from it, said a spokesman for the Khazal family, the former Channel 10 news reporter Paul Mullins.
Director searches on Paul Mullins reveal he had a public relations company at the time called CMW Media. And CMW's founding directors and shareholders back in November 2007, apart from Mullins, were John Ciuffetti and Adam Walters, who are both now at 10. Walters was the reporter on those 10 news stories, and Ciuffetti is 10's network news director. So, did those past connections influence 10's exclusive coverage? John Ciuffetti told us no.
Mr Mullins did not pitch, lobby or have anything to do with the story. Mr Khazal came to us. I haven't spoken with Paul Mullins for 7 years.
Paul Mullins also told us he is retired and has had nothing to do with the Khazals for years. So, if presenting Khazal as an innocent man was just a simple mistake, how and why did 10 get it so wrong? Here, Ciuffetti had a novel answer.
10 News did not make these claims. The claims were made by Mr Khazal.
Really, John? You have to be kidding. That is an absurd answer. And if you can't see that, you shouldn't be doing the job. But that is not the end of it. Because the ICAC commissioner who found Sharif Khazal to be corrupt is David Ip. And on Friday, his lawyers sent a legal letter to 10 threatening to sue for defamation, on the basis that they implied Ip was a wild and arrogant tyrant who had knowingly persecuted an innocent man. Ip is demanding an apology, stating in part,
Channel 10 unreservedly retracts the statements made during the broadcasts and apologises to Mr Ip.
And he plans to sue if he doesn't get one today. Meanwhile, it's worth noting that 2 of Sharif's brothers, Adam and Oscar, did not get on so well with the media. And they made this clear to journalist Linton Besser, who exposed their dealings in the Sydney Morning Herald, as his fellow reporter Kate McClymont told the Press Freedom Dinner in 2013.
The Ghazals told Linton that they knew all about him. They knew he had a young family, and it might be advisable if Linton did not write about them anymore. You write one more word and I'll make sure you and me are on the front page of every newspaper in the country, said Adam, not in a kindly way.
How strange it is that those journalists at 10 should choose to champion such a family. But now, let's flick the switch to the ABC, where Catalyst reporter Dr. Marianne de Macy has done it again. Yes, amazingly, she's created another storm of protest with her report on the supposed dangers of Wi-Fi and mobile phones.
You can't see it or hear it, but Wi-Fi blankets our homes, our cities and our schools.
My concern is nobody can say that it's safe.
Do mobile phones cause brain cancer? And is Wi-Fi making us sick? In this episode, I investigate the latest research and advice about the safety of our modern wireless devices.
Dr. de Macy's so-called investigation was on an important and legitimate subject. But the verdict next day from several experts was damning.
Scientists slam Catalyst mobile cancer link.
Experts, audience slam ABC Catalyst report on Wi-Fi danger.
It was scientifically bankrupt, Professor Bernard Stewart told Crikey. It was biased and little short of misleading and deceptive.
Now, remarkably, as you may know, this is not the first time one of Dr. de Macy's offerings has been scorned in this way. Back in 2013, mediawatch ripped into her two-part report on heart drugs called statins amidst a similar row about the science. Now, mediawatch is not going to take sides in this scientific debate, but looking at the journalism, we're almost as shocked as the doctors. Both episodes of Catalyst struck us as sensationalist and grossly unbalanced, and some of their so-called experts had questionable qualifications. On that occasion, an ABC investigation found Catalyst to be in breach of the broadcaster's editorial standard of impartiality, and de Macy's report was taken down from the Catalyst website. Well, last week's programme was not quite so bad, but it made many of the same mistakes. Dr. Rodney Croft is a world expert in this field and director of the Australian Centre for Electromagnetic Bioeffects Research, told mediawatch,
They really gave the impression that there was something to worry about, and they didn't let the viewer know that this was completely against what the scientific consensus says. I thought it was terrible to have an ABC program, which is supposed to be scientific, produce something like this.
Dr. Croft was not interviewed on the programme. He claims they called him beforehand and did not like his answers. Also missing was anyone from Monash University, Australia's other centre of excellence on the health effects of mobile phones, such as Dr. Geza Benke, who told us the Catalyst program was in parts
biased, ridiculous, completely wrong.
Benke singled out one of the witnesses for de Macy's claim that mobile phones may be unsafe, a Canadian campaigner called Frank Clegg, who used to work for Microsoft.
What were his qualifications? To say that Australia has the worst standards in the world is rubbish. The guy didn't have a clue what he was talking about.
But it wasn't just that experts like Croft and Benke didn't get a Guernsey. It was that de Macy's programme was shockingly one-sided. 6 witnesses were lined up to tell us that mobile phones and Wi-Fi may be dangerous to our health. And only one, the regulator, was there to tell us that the evidence is they're safe, even though the scientific consensus weighs heavily in the opposite direction. And there was similar imbalance in the time each side was given, with 14 minutes to the prosecutors and just over 2 for the defence. What's more, the programme took its lead from a controversial American campaigner, scientist Dr. Deborah Davis. And it seemed pretty clear Dr. de Macy was ready to believe.
Wow, so that penetrates almost to the other side of the ear.
Correct.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Now,
it is.
Do we know that this translates into health effects for the child?
No, we don't.
So should we be concerned?
So, was Davis challenged by de Macy on her views at all? Well, yes, just once.
Are you cherry-picking the data to suit your argument?
No, I'm not cherry-picking my work.
And that was all the scepticism we got. And we reckon from ABC TV's flagship science programme, it's not good enough. Many viewers who contacted us agreed.
Reporter Marianne de Macy has a track record in such biased science reporting on Catalyst. ABC viewers deserve better.
My concern, as a science journalist, is that Catalyst again favoured views from the fringes of science.
We put those criticisms to the ABC and to Marianne de Macy. What we got back was an 8-page statement from the reporter, claiming her programme was adequately balanced.
No one argued that mobile phones were dangerous. Catalyst included 6 people who had differing interpretations.
De Macy also commented in relation to our witness tally.
You cannot divide this argument into sides.
Well, we think that's exactly what she did. And she gave too much weight to the side she favoured. De Macy also told us she is being targeted in part because she's a woman.
In a rush to discredit this program, many critics on social media have sought to personally smear the reputation of Dr. de Macy and Dr. Davis, 2 highly qualified scientists and females in the media.
De Macy also points out that some of her harshest critics are the very ones who declined to appear. As for Dr. Rodney Croft, who was not invited on, de Macy told us,
Dr. Rodney Croft is not an expert in this area.
And he did not appear in the programme, she says, because he was
not an appropriate person to interview, and he appeared to be out of his depth.
We're not going to buy into that, but we do have concerns with many of her claims, which seem to miss the point that scientific journalism should be fair and balanced. And as evidence that she still does not see that problem, de Macy tells us that her 2 programmes on statins have now been vindicated, and that
we were found to breach impartiality mainly because we did not include factually erroneous information.
We don't think that's a fair assessment at all of why the programmes on statins were removed from Catalyst's website. But let's not limit our criticism to Dr. de Macy, because this is now the 3rd time her work has been found wanting. Last July, another of her programmes on antidepressants was canned by the ABC before it went to air, after similar concerns were voiced. And that makes it even more extraordinary, in our view, that the ABC should allow this to happen yet again. And finally tonight, to further upheaval at Fairfax Media and the sudden departure in Melbourne of The Age's editor-in-chief.
Andrew Holden exits The Age. Fairfax Media plans editorial restructure.
Fairfax moves a step closer to ending print run.
Stop the presses. Jeff Kennett fears digital age.
Fairfax and its journalists assure us The Age is not going to disappear yet, and any restructure will leave Melbourne's voice as strong as ever. But there's no doubt change is coming down the line. The Age's Monday to Friday print circulation has fallen by more than 1/3 since 2012, from almost 160,000 to under 100,000, while the website is now pulling in almost 1.8 million readers. And former Age editor Bruce Guthrie is concerned.
I think there now has to be a genuine chance that the Daily Age, and perhaps even the Daily Sydney Morning Herald, might disappear this year.
Fairfax says it has no plans to stop the presses, but this looks like a step in that direction. As you can see, the new Fairfax management chart places digital right at the centre and sidelines print and the newspaper editors out on a limb which could be easily amputated in future. Digital will now drive everything the newsroom produces, or as one Fairfax journalist put it,
the big change is that print will just have to use whatever the digital side of the business requests.
And that inevitably will see the papers dumbed down as stories the public want to click on increasingly dominate what journalists are asked to write. As The Age's Carl Quinn told ABC Radio last week,
the competition now isn't just other media organisations, it's every form of media that is competing for attention, right? And that includes Twitter and Facebook and BuzzFeed.
Everything you look at on the screen.
Everything, right? That is what we're competing against all the time. So there is a real identity crisis around how we get into the space where you're capturing people's attention. And some of it is still applying the old school standards of, is this in the public interest? And that's fighting daily, almost on a story-by-story basis with, is the public interested in this? And those are 2 different things.
They sure are. And that's the challenge that every commercial media organisation increasingly faces, as indeed do we. And you can read more about all tonight's stories on our Facebook page or our website, where you can read that statement from Marianne de Macy and get a transcript and download the programme. You can also catch up with us on iView and contact me or mediawatch on Twitter. But for now, until next week, that's all from us. Goodbye.